On the last night of May, in a quiet hospital room in Marietta, Georgia, a woman sat beside a bed and began to sing. The song was A Whole New World. The woman was Regina Belle, and the man lying in that bed, the man she had sung that song with on stages all over the planet for more than 30 years, was two-time Grammy winner Peabo Bryson. He had suffered a stroke just days before. The family had gathered, the machines hummed, and Regina Belle did the only thing that ever made sense between the two of them. She sang to him. 2 days later, on the evening of June 2nd, 2026, at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, Peabo Bryson was gone. He was 75 years old. The tributes came fast. Celine Dion said she was heartbroken. Kenny Lattimore stood up and brought a room to tears. The whole music world stopped to honor the velvet voice that gave us Tonight I Celebrate My Love, Beauty and the Beast, and A Whole New World, the only animated Disney song ever to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. But in the days after his passing, it was Regina Belle's words that stopped people cold. Because when she finally spoke about the man she lost, she didn't just talk about herself, she talked about the woman who came before her. The woman whose name has been tied to Peabo Bryson's for more than 40 years, Roberta Flack. And what Regina Belle revealed about that bond confirmed something fans have whispered about since 1983. Stay with us, because by the end of this story you'll understand why people are saying that Peabo Bryson didn't just leave us, he went home to her. Let's be honest about something. For 4 decades, fans have asked the same question about Peabo Bryson and Roberta Flack. Was it ever more than music? You watched them on stage in the early 80s and you wondered, the way Roberta Flack looked at him during Tonight I Celebrate My Love, the way Peabo Bryson leaned into her on those long final notes, like the song was a secret only the two of them were in on. Audiences saw it, critics saw it, the whispers followed them from city to city. Peabo Bryson was asked about Roberta Flack in interviews for the rest of his life, and in 1999 he gave an answer that fans have never forgotten. He said that Roberta Flack and Celine Dion were his 2 favorite people in the entire world. Think about that. A man who sang with nearly every great female voice of his generation. Natalie Cole, Regina Belle, Melissa Manchester, and when he ranked the people in his world, Roberta Flack stood at the top next to only one other name. Now both of those duets are silent. Roberta Flack passed in February of 2025. Peabo Bryson followed her 16 months later, and the people who knew him best, the people who stood beside him at the end, are finally saying out loud what the rest of us only suspected. But to understand what Regina Belle revealed, you have to go back to the beginning, back to South Carolina, back to a shy kid with a grandfather's record collection and a voice that didn't belong to this world. Peabo Bryson was born Robert Peabo Bryson in Greenville, South Carolina in the spring of 1951. He grew up on a farm, raised in a house full of music, where the records of Sam Cooke and Nat King Cole and Billy Eckstine spun on repeat. That was the school Peabo Bryson learned in, not a conservatory, a living room. He absorbed phrasing the way other kids absorbed baseball statistics. By the time he was a teenager, he was singing backup in local groups, grinding through the Chitlin circuit, learning what it meant to move a room. He paid his dues the long way, years on the road, years of small checks and smaller venues. He signed with Capitol Records in the early 70s, and slowly, song by song, the industry started to learn his name. By the late 70s, Peabo Bryson had become one of the most respected balladeers in rhythm and blues. Songs like Feel the Fire and I'm So Into You made him a star in soul circles. And here is a detail younger fans never knew. Even his name was an accident of love. The story Peabo Bryson told for years was that his middle name, Peabo, came from family, and somewhere along the line the spelling shifted to Peabo, and it stuck. He could have corrected it, he never did. Because Peabo Bryson understood, even as a young man, that he wasn't building a brand, he was building a feeling, and the feeling needed a name nobody else had. The other thing that set him apart in those years was discipline. While his peers chased trends, disco one year, funk the next, Peabo Bryson planted his flag on one piece of ground and never moved. The love ballad, the slow song, the last dance of the night. Other artists treated ballads as album filler. Peabo Bryson treated them as a calling. He once explained his philosophy simply. "Anybody can sing loud," he would say in interviews over the years. "The hard part is making one person in the 20th row believe you are singing only to them." That philosophy was about to meet its perfect test, because singing to one person in the 20th row is one thing. Singing beside a legend, matching her note for note without drowning her or disappearing, that is the rarest skill in music. And in 1980, the phone rang with exactly that challenge. But Peabo Bryson had a gift that set him apart from almost everyone in his lane. His voice could cross any border. It was rich enough for church, smooth enough for the quiet storm radio format that Roberta Flack had helped define, and clean enough for the pop charts. The industry noticed. And at the dawn of the 80s, the label had an idea that would change his life. Pair the rising prince of soul ballads with one of the greatest voices in the history of American music. Pair Peabo Bryson with Roberta Flack. Understand who Roberta Flack was at that moment. She was already a legend. "The first time ever I saw your face," "Killing Me Softly" with his song, back-to-back Grammy wins for Record of the Year, something no artist had ever done before her. She had recorded some of the most beloved duets in soul history alongside Donny Hathaway, "Where Is the Love," "The Closer I Get to You," songs that redefined what two voices could do together. But Donny Hathaway was gone, lost in January of 1979, and the question of who could stand beside Roberta Flack and fill that space had no easy answer. Roberta Flack wasn't just a singer, she was an institution. A classically trained pianist who had turned restraint into an art form, who could break your heart with a whisper. She was also, by reputation, exacting, a perfectionist, an artist who did not suffer sloppy musicianship and did not hand out her trust easily. And then she met Peabo Bryson. Their first full collaboration came on a live double album at the start of the decade, recorded on tour together. And something happened on those stages that nobody fully planned. The chemistry was immediate. Audiences could feel it from the back row. Two voices that should have competed for space instead wrapped around each other like they'd been rehearsing for lifetimes. The label heard it too. So in 1983, Roberta Flack and Peabo Bryson went into the studio and made an album together called Born to Love. And on that album was a song that would follow both of them for the rest of their lives. A song written by Michael Masser and Jerry Goffin, two of the most gifted songwriters in popular music. "Tonight I Celebrate My Love." It became a worldwide hit, a wedding standard, a slow dance anthem. To this day, it is one of the most beloved duets ever recorded, and the two voices on it sounded so completely in love that the public simply decided they were. The tours that followed only fed the legend. Night after night, city after city, Roberta Flack and Peabo Bryson stood under the same spotlight and performed intimacy with a precision that made audiences forget it was a performance at all. Reviewers from that era struggled to describe it. Two singers from different generations, different traditions, different worlds, somehow breathing on the same count. She brought the stillness, he brought the warmth, and somewhere in the middle, something happened that neither one of them ever fully explained. Here is where the story gets complicated. And here is where we're going to be careful, because Peabo Bryson deserves that, and so does Roberta Flack. Through the mid-80s, the rumors never stopped. Industry insiders whispered about the closeness between them. Fans wrote letters asking when the wedding was. Promoters reportedly leaned into the speculation, because nothing sells tickets like a love story. Roberta Flack was 16 years older than Peabo Bryson. She had mentored young singers before. Some who watched them said the bond looked like mentorship. Some said it looked like family. And some, watching those performances, swore there had to be something more. What we can say for certain is this: neither of them ever confirmed a romance. Both of them, across decades of interviews, described something that might honestly be rarer than romance: a total artistic trust. Peabo Bryson spoke about Roberta Flack with a reverence he gave to almost no one else. He talked about what she taught him, about how singing with her changed the way he approached every duet that came after. And the duets that came after made him immortal. Because in the early 90s, Peabo Bryson did something no soul singer had ever done. He conquered Disney. In 1991, the studio needed two voices to carry the end credits of Beauty and the Beast. Composer Alan Menken and lyricist Howard Ashman had written a song so delicate it required voices with genuine feeling, not just technique. One of those voices was Peabo Bryson. The other was a 23-year-old French-Canadian singer that most of America had never heard of. Her name was Celine Dion. We covered the full story of Peabo Bryson and Celine Dion in our last video, and if you haven't seen what Celine finally admitted after his passing, the link is in the description because it will break your heart. But the short version is this. Beauty and the Beast became a top 10 smash, won the Grammy for Best Pop Duo or Group Performance, and effectively introduced Celine Dion to the American audience. She spent the next 3 decades crediting that duet and that partner as the doorway to everything. Then, before the industry could even catch its breath, Peabo Bryson did it again. A Whole New World with Regina Belle. Written by Alan Menken with lyrics by Tim Rice for the animated film Aladdin, it became another chart-topping smash that climbed all the way to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the only Disney animated song ever to reach that peak. Another Grammy in back-to-back years. The kid from Greenville now had a voice that played in every household in America. 2 Disney princes don't exist, but if they did, both of them would have been Peabo Bryson. But the people closest to Peabo Bryson always said the same thing. The blueprint for all of it, the chemistry, the patience, the way he made every partner sound like the only woman in the world, that blueprint was drawn on a stage next to Roberta Flack. He admitted as much himself in his own way every time the subject came up. Interviewers would ask him how he managed to create that lightning twice with 2 different partners, and Peabo Bryson would smile and redirect the credit backward in time, because he knew. The patience he showed Celine Dion in that studio when she was 23 and nervous, the generosity he showed Regina Belle when 2 stars had to share one melody, those weren't natural gifts, those were lessons. And the teacher's name was Roberta Flack. Now we get to Regina Belle. Because her place in this story is the reason her words this month carry so much weight. Regina Belle came up out of New Jersey with a church-forged alto and a jazz singer's instincts. By the late 80s, she was a star in her own right, and when Disney needed a voice to stand beside Peabo Bryson on A Whole New World, Regina Belle stepped to the microphone. The song went to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 in March of 1993. It won the Grammy for Best Pop Duo or Group Performance, and it bonded Regina Belle and Peabo Bryson for life. For more than 30 years afterward, they toured together, sang together, celebrated anniversaries of that song together. She knew his warm-ups, she knew his moods, she knew which stories he told before a show and which ones he saved for after. And according to those who toured with them, Regina Belle knew something else. She knew what Roberta Flack meant to him, not as a tabloid rumor, as a living presence. Because reports from people around the tours say Peabo Bryson never stopped talking about Roberta Flack. The lessons, the standards she held him to, the nights on stage when everything clicked and the audience disappeared. Regina Belle had a front-row seat to the truth of that bond for 3 decades, which is why, when she finally spoke after his death, people listened. To understand Peabo Bryson's final year, you have to understand the loss that started it. In 2022, Roberta Flack's team announced devastating news. She had been diagnosed with ALS, the disease known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The announcement said plainly that the condition had made it impossible for her to sing. Sit with that, Roberta Flack. One of the most precise, most expressive vocal instruments in American history, silenced while she was still here. For the friends who loved her, the years that followed were a long goodbye, and on February 24, 2025, Roberta Flack passed away at the age of 88. People close to the situation say that loss landed on Peabo Bryson with real weight. He had already faced his own mortality. He had survived a heart attack back in 2019, a health scare that he said changed how he saw everything. He talked openly afterward about gratitude, about borrowed time, about wanting every show to count. Friends say the experience softened him in some ways and sharpened him in others. He stopped postponing phone calls. He stopped assuming there would always be another tour, another reunion, another chance to say the things that mattered. And Peabo Bryson knew something about loss that had nothing to do with health. He had lost things before. In 2003, during a brutal stretch of tax trouble, the IRS seized his property and auctioned off his possessions, and among the items that went on the block was one of his Grammy Awards. Imagine that, the highest honor in music, the symbol of everything he built from that Greenville farm, sold to settle a debt. People who know him say he carried that humiliation quietly and rebuilt without complaint, the same way he did everything. But it taught him a lesson he repeated to younger artists for the rest of his life. The awards can be taken. The houses can be taken. The only thing they can never take is what happened between you and another voice on a stage. Which brings us back to Roberta Flack and the cruelest part of her final years. For a singer, ALS is not just a terminal diagnosis, it is a thief that takes the voice first. The woman who taught the world that a whisper could hit harder than a scream, the same woman who had once made the quiet storm format her natural home, spent her last years unable to whisper at all. Friends and collaborators visited, tributes poured in while she could still receive them, and those around the soul music community say the artists she had shaped, the generation of duet partners and students and admirers, all understood they were watching the long fade of a giant. In the months after Roberta Flack's passing, Peabo Bryson kept performing. Those who saw those shows described something different in him. A man singing like he was settling accounts. Like every ballad had a recipient. He had 1 year left. At the end of May 2026, the news broke quietly at first. Peabo Bryson had suffered a stroke. He was hospitalized in Marietta, Georgia, outside Atlanta, the city he had called home for years. The family gathered, and so did Regina Belle. What happened next is the image this entire story turns on. Regina Belle has shared that she was there at his hospital bedside in those final days, and that she sang to him. She sang A Whole New World, the song that made them partners, the song that made them family. Picture that room. 33 years after two voices met on a Disney soundtrack and changed both their lives, one of those voices is singing their song one last time to a man who can no longer sing it back. On Tuesday, June 2nd at 5 o'clock in the evening Eastern Time, Peabo Bryson transitioned peacefully. His representatives confirmed it the next morning. He was 75. The outpouring was immediate. Celine Dion posted that her heart was broken, honoring the partner who stood beside her on the song that introduced her to America. Kenny Lattimore delivered a tribute so raw it made headlines of its own. Radio stations across the country went wall to wall with that voice, that impossible velvet voice. And then Regina Belle spoke. And this is where the story stopped being a news cycle and became something else. In her public remembrance of Peabo Bryson, Regina Belle did something that surprised people. She didn't center herself. She centered the lineage. She spoke about what it meant to stand in a tradition, about how Peabo Bryson treated the duet not as a gimmick but as a sacred form, and woven through her words and through the tributes from those who knew him best, one truth kept surfacing. The truth fans had circled for 40 years. Roberta Flack was never just a duet partner to Peabo Bryson. She was the love that taught him how to love. Everyone who came after, every partner he ever lifted on a stage, was singing into a space that Roberta Flack built. Now, let's be precise, because this is where lesser channels get sloppy. Nobody who actually knew them has ever claimed a hidden romance. What the people closest to Peabo Bryson are confirming is something arguably deeper, and to fans who watched it for 40 years, more honest. He loved Roberta Flack, fully, openly, in the way artists love the person who unlocked them. He said it himself when he called her one of his two favorite people in the entire world. He said it every time he told a young singer that everything he knew about a duet, he learned standing next to her. That was the suspicion, that on some level, Roberta Flack was the partnership of his life. And in death, the people he trusted have finally said it plainly. Look at the evidence of a lifetime. When Peabo Bryson built set lists, the Roberta Flack material never left them. When he taught masterclasses and mentored younger vocalists, her name came up like scripture. When he was asked, decade after decade, which collaboration meant the most, he found diplomatic ways to honor everyone. And then somehow the conversation always wound its way back to a stage in the early 80s and a woman 16 years his senior who demanded his absolute best and got it. Regina Belle saw all of it. For 33 years she stood where Roberta Flack once stood, singing into the space Roberta Flack built, watching her partner honor a bond that time never weakened. That is what makes her voice in this moment so powerful. She isn't a tabloid source. She isn't an anonymous insider. She is the one person on Earth who knows exactly what it means to be Peabo Bryson's partner, telling us what fans suspected was true all along. The love was real. It just ran deeper than the rumors ever imagined, which is why one detail from this month hit fans so hard. Roberta Flack passed in February of last year. Peabo Bryson followed in June of this year. The two voices of Tonight I Celebrate My Love left this world barely 16 months apart. And all across social media, fans landed on the same 5 words. They are singing together again. There's a moment in Tonight I Celebrate My Love near the end where the two voices stop trading lines and simply rise together. No lead, no harmony underneath. Just two people deciding to land on the same note at the same time. That's the image to hold on to. Peabo Bryson gave us 50 years of music. He gave Celine Dion her American introduction. He gave Regina Belle a partnership that lasted 33 years and ended with her singing at his bedside. He gave 2 generations of couples their wedding song. And he gave Roberta Flack something history will remember even longer. He gave her the perfect partner, the one voice patient enough, generous enough, and strong enough to stand beside hers and not flinch, the voice that stepped into the silence Donny Hathaway left behind and built something entirely new. His memorial arrangements have not yet been announced. When that celebration of life happens, the biggest names in music will be in that room, and you can be certain this channel will bring you every moment of it. Because if the tributes this month told us anything, it's that the story of Peabo Bryson is still being written by the people who loved him. But for now, the story ends where it began, with 2 voices. One of them left us in February of last year, after a lifetime of making restraint sound like thunder. The other followed this month, with the sound of a whole new world still hanging in his hospital room. Somewhere beyond all of this, if you believe what the fans believe, what Regina Belle's bedside song seemed to promise, a stage light is coming up. A piano is settling into the first bars, and Roberta Flack is turning to her right to the partner she's been waiting 16 months for, the way she did every night in 1983. Tonight, they celebrate. If this story moved you, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button because we will be covering Peabo Bryson's memorial and every tribute as they happen. Drop a comment below and tell us your favorite Peabo Bryson duet. Was it Tonight I Celebrate My Love, Beauty and the Beast, A Whole New World? And share this video with someone who grew up on that voice. Rest easy, Peabo. The celebration is yours now.